What's up, y'all? I haven't done a What's Up, y'all in ages, and I'm actually really mad because I'm trying to sleep, and this What's Up, y'all won't let me sleep. I'm so mad about it. I have seen, I have seen lots of commentary over the last 3 weeks about Kanye West's comments about anti-Semitic comments from Kanye West. And I've not actually paid any attention to much of that because it's not where, yeah, because I don't pay attention to Kanye West. And, where our attention goes is what grows. And so I'm interested in growing other things. However, I was sitting here mulling over the issue of anti-Semitism, because I have young family members who, teeter on hotepishness, who have sent me things that are like, but, Jews do run the media, quote unquote, right? Like that is probably one of the most prominent anti-Semitic stereotypes that circulates in the community that I operate in. And I wanted to try to explain in a really simplified way why those kinds of stereotypes are anti-Semitic, why they're dangerous, and why they're body terrorism from the framework that I use and talk about. And so, the first is that, of course, in the lead up to the Holocaust, what the Nazi regime did very well was place a narrative of suspicion around Jewish people by proposing that they had more resources and that they owned, things and that they had things that other people didn't have, and that the economic challenges of Germany at the time were the result of that, right? And so issue number one is parroting a narrative that led to the murder of millions of people is a really dangerous, awful thing to do, right? And so one, it's just like that narrative is literally the narrative that cost millions of Jewish people their lives. That's why it's not okay. But here's the other reason why it's not okay. And here's where your white supremacist delusional slip is showing, right? Because, so utilizing this conversation, this narrative, this stereotype, this anti-Semitic stereotype of Jewish people run the media. Even if there is a disproportionate number of Jewish people represented in major media conglomerates, even if that's true, if you are asking that question and you haven't asked or said, white men run the banks, or white men run the corporations, or white men run the government, or white men run the grocery stores, or white men run construction companies, or white men run defense companies, if you are sitting here talking about the folks who run the media while ignoring every other entity of infrastructure in the United States and who runs that, you're anti-Semitic, because you are focusing on a minority group's presence in one area while ignoring an entire national infrastructure run by white men. You're lost in the white supremacist delusional sauce, friends. If that is your angle, and your angle is to highlight what this marginalized group has a corner on, right? while ignoring all the things white men own, my friend, you are doing the bidding of white supremacist delusion. And it, it makes me think of back in the Reconstruction era in the early 20th century, when Black people owned a disproportionate number of watermelon farms. It was literally the crop that Black people ran and owned. And the narrative of anti-Blackness, like the commitment to anti-Blackness, had white folks, come up with a stereotype of watermelon eating and eating watermelons as this behavior that was, correlated with lazy Black people just sitting around and eating watermelon. The negative stereotype was literally created so that it could tamp down the market, the corner that Black people had on the watermelon market. It was literally created for that purpose. So when I hear people talking about, Jewish people own the media, I'm like, you mean the way Black people own watermelons? And so our intention is to figure out, white supremacy's intention is to figure out how you make that a devious, malicious, negative thing, a stereotypical thing pointed at this one specific marginalized group at the, such that we erase every other aspect of control and power, every other locus of control and power that exists inside this society that is inequitable and unevenly distributed. You mean that's what we're going to do? So that's number one, right? That's our number two of why those kinds of tropes are anti-Semitic. Number three is, if there are 40 media companies and 65, 75, 80%, and this is me making up numbers because I've actually not looked into this at all. Even if you said 80% of those 40 media companies were run by people who were Jewish, how many Jewish people are in the world? How many Jewish people are in the United States? Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of Jewish people exist in the United States. And you mean to tell me that because 30 Jewish people have a concentration of power in a specific industry, that accounts for all millions of Jewish people? Like, come on, y'all. Like, we're not even being smart when we fall into these traps of white supremacist delusion. White supremacist delusion will sell you anything and have you parrot every version of foolishness it can think of. Guess what? Those 30 people, again, these numbers are made up, those 30 people who are Jewish, who have positions of power in the media industry, do not represent Jewish people. They represent the power infrastructure. That's who they represent. They are in alignment with the same white men who run the defense contracts, who run the government, who run the grocery stores, who run the Fortune 500. That's who those people are in alignment with. They're not in alignment with the other 40 million Jewish people who are simply out here trying to live their lives. Y'all, we got to do better. Stop allowing white supremacist delusion to make you complicit in its attempts to hide its own manipulation, power, and control by scapegoating other groups and individuals. Stop letting white supremacist delusion do that. Now, the reality is that there are Jewish people who are in alignment with and have aligned themselves with whiteness and white supremacist delusion. Absolutely. And so they are inside of my conversation about white supremacist delusion. They're not in my conversation about Judaism or Jewish people. They're in a conversation about white supremacist delusion. The same way Kanye is in a conversation about white supremacist delusion, although he's black, right? So, stop allowing the infrastructure of white supremacist delusion to play smoke and mirrors with you, to have you have conversations that allow it to obscure itself, its power, its control, its violence, its degradation, its history of inequity and injustice against an entire swath of most of the planet. Stop letting it do that, and stop letting it make you a pawn. Quit. We could do better. All right. I'm going to bed now.